terminal file managers are a really weird space where outside of a couple of basic things like Vim key movement, there's not really any standards. And because there's not really any standards, there's a lot of really weird and wacky designs. And today we're going to look at what I think is one of the most weird but actually kind of useful concepts for a terminal file manager. This is CLIfm, which is sort of a mix between a TUI and a CLI. What I mean by this is you don't actually have to learn any new commands if you don't want to, because all of your existing shell commands are going to work. Things like, let's say I want to cd into my games folder, or I want to go and ls out the directory, or I want to go and move files around with mv, I want to copy files with cp, I want to go and remove directories and things like that. All of that stuff is going to work basically the exact same way. But if you want to go and learn the extra stuff, there's a lot of things that make it really, really efficient. So every entry in this list is assigned a number. The number you're seeing on the left-hand side in yellow. The number you see on the right-hand side here is basically just how many files exist in a folder. So anything that's just a file doesn't have that right-hand number. So this left-hand number is referred to as an ELN, the entry list number. Now for using the application, knowing that isn't very useful. But when you're looking up the documentation, knowing it's called ELN will make searching a little bit easier. If you ever start running a bunch of commands and you lose this folder listing on your screen, and maybe you have a terminal that doesn't support scroll back, or you just don't really feel like scrolling all the way back up to the top to see all the information here, if we go and do /, that is going to retake us into the current folder we are in. That's actually a very important point. When you want to jump between folders, you don't need to use cd. If you write the name of the folder, it is going to take you into that thing. So let's say I want to go into my games folder, I can just write games, and it'll take us directly to that. Same with going back up a folder, we can do // and it'll take us back to the parent. Now, this also supports tab completion, so that is going to make it a little bit easier as well. But the same concept also happens with opening files as well. So if I start writing .zshemp, that is going to go and open up the file. But you also don't have to use the file names, you can actually use these numbers. So if I write 76 instead, it's actually going to say what it points to, and running it like that is going to also open the file. Same thing with folders as well. If I write, say, number 17, it is going to take us into the games folder. Now, the file opener is defined in the configuration for the application. If you want to go and modify it, that's the place you want to go. Something else you may have noticed is the number in the square brackets here. What this indicates is the workspace you are currently on. Right now, we are on workspace 1. If we go and press Alt-2, Alt-3, Alt-4, that will then go and jump us between those workspaces. So if you want to go and say select files in here and then copy them into another folder on another workspace, that's totally possible. On that note, if you want to select files, that can be done with the S command. This will accept a name, a glob, a regex, an ELN, and an ELN range. And this is pretty much the case for anything related to file operations, so for future commands, I am not going to mention it. But let's say I want to go and select, my bash profile. So I can either use the name, or I could go and say 56. And this is basically going to add it into a list of selected items. And the amount that is selected is indicated by this number right here. So if I go and do, say, S61 to 63, that is going to add all of those to the list as well. While there is this indicator of how many are in the list, if you ever forget what actually is in the list itself, you can check that by running SB, and that will list out the entire list. So what can we actually do with the list? Well, I lied about the file operations. There's one more thing you can include. So let's say I want to go and copy the entire selection into my phone directory, for example. So the C command is going to be for copy, or the CP command. If we then say cell, and then either include pictures or the number here, so this is going to be 33, it is going to copy all of those things into that directory. If I go into phone now, all of those files are there. I should also note that you can use cell for existing Unix commands. So right now the selection still has those same files in it. If we go and run ls on the cell, it is just going to list out those files. So to these applications, it seems like it is just a list of file paths, and in cases where that makes sense, it is going to work the exact same way as just listing them out manually. But in cases where it doesn't, using the built-in is going to make more sense. If for whatever reason you need to select the entire folder, there is a shortcut for this. This is Alt-A, and everything is going to be added to your list. If something is already in the list, it is going to give you a warning saying that that can't be added. So now that everything is in the list, if you want to go and empty the list, this is done with the ds command. So ds is going to accept a couple of different options, either specific things to remove, a range, or just removing everything. Now, you don't have to do it from that interface. If you want to go and say ds and then 1 or ds everything, ds range, it can just be done with an option. And like any good file manager, it also has trash support. So if we go and run T, that is going to list out everything in the trash. Now, you're going to notice there is a bunch of files in here. The reason for this is because, once again, like any good file manager, it integrates with the XDG trash specification, which is what most things are using. So if you delete something in, say, PCManFM, it is still going to be in the trash list for CLIfm as well. Now, the T option supports a couple of different methods of use. So if we go and run T, but also include a file, let's go with those files I went and created before. So T and then my bash profile here, this is going to just add it into the trash. If we run T and then list, this is going to list out everything in the trash the same way we were doing before. But if we go and do T clear, this is going to go and try to empty the trash. Now, this is going to take a while for me because I have a lot of things in the trash, and there are some things in there that probably shouldn't be, that are kind of write protected, but assuming that you don't have stupid things in the trash, and the trash is a little bit more empty, it is going to empty it. And I'm not going to run this, but if you use the U command, it is going to go and restore everything inside of your trash. Be very careful about doing that, because it could dump a bunch of extra files into your system that you'd thought you'd already deleted. Now, trash, like other things, is going to support specific numbers being deleted and ranges and things like that, but you should already know that by now. And I want to quickly go over the file operations. So the R command, that is going to remove a file. We already saw C before for copying a file. There's also M. M is going to work the exact same way MV does, so with a starting place and with an ending place. We also have the L command, which is going to be for making a symlink. Once again, works the exact same way. We have BR for doing a bulk rename. So if you want to go and, actually let's find something. Let's say you want to go and bulk rename, let's say all three of these files. BR 1 to 3, it's going to open up in a Vim buffer in my case, and then you can rename them. Let's say I want to go and, I don't know, get rid of all of this bit here, and then save it. It is then going to prompt you to say, hey, these are the changes being made. Would you like to make those changes? I'm going to say yes, and then the changes get made. The P command is going to let you see the properties of a file. So let's say I want to see the properties of file 2 here. It says things like the access date, who owns it, things like that, stuff you'd expect to see. And the PP command is going to do the same thing, but on a directory instead. And then the N command will let you create a new file or a new directory. To make it a directory, all you do is just stick a slash on the end. Whereas if you just have the letter by itself, or the name by itself more preferably, then it will be a file. And there is also a bookmark manager. Like the trash command, pressing BM is going to list out the bookmarks, and pressing the number for the bookmark is going to allow you to use it. Or we can press E and go and modify the bookmarks. So in this case, let's jump to that one, and there we go. So if we go and use the BM command with some of the sub-commands, we can go and add and delete bookmarks and things like that. So BMA or BM add is going to let you add a bookmark. I'm going to say let's add 17. This is going to add the games directory as a bookmark, and then it'll let us give a shortcut for it. So let's say this is going to be G, and then the name is going to be games, I guess, and there we go. BM, and now we have that in the list. But there is another way to use the bookmark. Obviously, we assign that shortcut, so we should just be able to go and write G and jump directly to it. And yes, we can. It can also be done outside of that interface as well by just passing in that name as the option into BM. So BMG in this case is going to jump to games. Or if you wanted to, you could use the name instead. So BM Games is going to work the same way as well. And BMD is going to let you delete a bookmark. So in this case, let's get rid of the one I just made. So in this case, bookmark 2, and now the bookmark is gone. I've really only given a surface level look at what this application can do. It is also highly customizable. Like a lot of applications, there is a command to open the config inside of it. That is the edit command. This file is actually located in .config/CLIfm/profile/default/CLIfmRC. And this is quite long, with a lot of documentation as well. I very much appreciate this. Every dev who adds this is instantly better in my books. I don't want to have to go to the documentation on the website to see exactly how to modify things. Just give it in the file. And if you want to go and modify the key bindings, that is done with the kbedit command. Once again, this is located in .config/CLIfm/keybindings.cfm. This isn't in the most user-friendly format, I would say. It requires you to use, like, these hex values or oct numbers or symbols. It's just not great. I've certainly seen worse ways of defining key bindings, but in case you're not seeing it well, this one right here, parent-dir2, \e, left square bracket, A. I don't know what that means. Yes, I know it says it directly above it. The point I'm making is without that comment being there, I would have no idea what's being said. As for actually checking the hotkeys and what commands are available, probably the best place to go is write ? And this opens up effectively the quick start guide. So this will show you pretty much everything you need to know to use the application. It's not everything about the application, but it's the things that generally matter. If you want more information, the best place to go for that is over to the wiki on the GitHub. This will tell you everything the application does, and it does a lot more than I mentioned. There's also this thing called like a stealth mode. I don't know what that means. There are profiles. You have all of this extra customization I didn't go over. There's archiving support. There's a file lister mode. There's apparently MTP integration, and all of this other cool stuff. As I said, I have only scratched the surface. I think just using it at this basic level is already cool enough. The fact that it does all of this extra stuff, I think is just a bonus. So I may possibly at some point have to revisit this and see what else it has to offer. But as it stands, I think CLIfm is really cool. And if you want a fairly unique way of interacting with your files, this certainly offers it. So let me know in the comment section down below. Did you know about CLIfm? Are you already using it? Or are you just as confused about this application as I am? I would love to know. So if you like this video, I'm going to go and like the video. If you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, go check out my Patreon, subscribe to Bearer Pay, linked in the description down below. I've got a podcast called Tech Over Tea. I've got a gaming channel called Brodie Robertson Plays. That's going to be it for me, and I'm out.